The pain was unbearable as I curled up on my bedroom floor, trying to breathe through what felt like fire in my side. Outside my door, I could hear the familiar argument. He needs to toughen up, Mom. How else will he survive in real competitions? Marcus, my older brother, the family's golden child and three-time state martial arts champion, was using his usual excuse. But honey, maybe you went too hard this time. Mom's voice was worried but placating, never strong enough to actually stop him. I wanted to scream that this wasn't practice. This was never practice. This was Marcus using me as his personal punching bag whenever he was frustrated about his own tournaments or when Dad pushed him too hard. At 16, Marcus was everything I wasn't at 14, strong, confident, and Dad's pride and joy. I was the soft one, more interested in science and computers than fighting. That made me the perfect target for Marcus's training sessions. Daniel, Dad's voice boomed through my door. Stop being dramatic and come out. Your brother needs a sparring partner. I tried to stand but collapsed back down, a wave of nausea hitting me hard. Something was really wrong this time. Marcus's last kick had been different, harder, fueled by rage after losing his semifinal match earlier that day. I can't. I managed to call out, something's wrong. The door burst open. Dad stood there, his former champion stance intimidating as always. His expression changed when he saw me on the floor, clutching my side. What's wrong with him? Mom appeared behind Dad, her hands twisting her apron. Marcus peered in, and for a moment, I saw fear flash across his face. I didn't hit him that hard, he said, but his voice wavered. I pulled up my shirt, revealing the angry purple bruising spreading across my side. Mom gasped. It's fine, Dad started to say, but then I vomited, and there was blood. Everything moved in a blur after that. The ride to the emergency room was tense, filled with whispered instructions. Remember, Daniel, it was during regular practice, Dad kept saying. Just a normal sparring accident. Your brother's future depends on this, Mom added, her voice trembling. He could lose his scholarship chances. Marcus sat silent in the back seat next to me, his usual arrogance gone. I caught him staring at my pale face in the reflection of the window, actually looking scared for the first time I could remember. In the emergency room, Dr. Patel wasn't buying the practice story. Her sharp eyes took in my bruising, my medical history pulled up on her tablet, and the way my family hovered anxiously. Multiple ER visits in the past year, she read aloud. All from training accidents, her tone made the quotation marks clear. We take martial arts very seriously in our family, Dad said smoothly. Daniel here is just still learning. Dr. Patel turned to me, deliberately positioning herself to block my family's view. Daniel, can you tell me exactly what happened? I opened my mouth, years of rehearsed lies ready to spill out, but another wave of pain hit me. The blood tests and scans came back quickly, and Dr. Patel's face turned serious. This isn't a simple bruise, she announced. There's significant damage to his right kidney. This kind of injury, she paused, looking directly at my parents, is consistent with an extremely forceful traumatic blow. The kind you'd see in car accidents or severe abuse, not supervised martial arts practice. The room fell silent. Marcus looked like he might throw up. We need to admit him immediately, Dr. Patel continued. And as a mandated reporter, I'm required to notify the proper authorities. Now wait a minute, Dad started, but Dr. Patel cut him off. Sir, your son has internal bleeding. This isn't something we can ignore or explain away. As they prepared to take me for emergency treatment, a police officer and a social worker entered the room. I saw Marcus sink into a chair, his face in his hands. It was an accident, he whispered, but this time it sounded more like a plea than a statement. The social worker, Mr. Torres, sat beside my bed while the medical team worked. Daniel, he said gently, you're safe now. Can you tell me what really happened? Looking at my brother's defeated posture, my parents' crumbling facade, and Dr. Patel's encouraging nod, I made a decision. Years of forced silence, of protecting Marcus's future at the cost of my own safety, ended with my next breath. It wasn't practice, I said, my voice weak but clear. It's never been practice. As I began to tell the truth, I saw Mom start to cry and Dad's face turn ashen. But for the first time in years, the pain in my side wasn't the worst thing I was feeling. The truth was finally coming out, and not even my champion brother could fight his way out of this one. The hospital room became my sanctuary over the next few days. No forced sparring, no walking on eggshells, just the steady beeping of monitors and kind nurses who treated me like a person, not a punching bag. The investigation unfolded quickly. Mr. Torres and Detective Chen spent hours documenting my story, photographing old injuries, and reviewing my extensive medical history. Each training accident was now being seen for what it really was: systematic abuse disguised as martial arts practice. Marcus wasn't allowed to visit me. Through hushed conversations I overheard, I learned he was staying with our aunt while the investigation continued. His prestigious martial arts scholarship was now under review. Mom visited daily, crying and apologizing. But her words rang hollow. I should have stopped it, she kept saying. I just didn't want to upset your father. Dad's reaction was different. He wasn't allowed in my room after he tried to convince me to change my story during his first visit. Think about your brother's future, he had demanded. Everything we've worked for. What about my future? I had asked quietly. What about my safety? Dr. Patel had him removed from the room after that outburst. On my third day in the hospital, my computer science teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, visited. He brought my laptop and something unexpected: hope. Remember that coding competition you wanted to enter? He asked, setting up my laptop. The one your parents said was a waste of time. I nodded. Last month, I'd secretly shown him an app I'd developed for tracking martial arts injuries. Back then, I'd disguised it as a general sports medicine project, but we both knew the truth now. The competition committee reviewed your application. They're very impressed, Daniel. They want you to present it at the state finals next month. For the first time since entering the hospital, I smiled. Really? Really. And there's more. Several tech companies sponsor scholarships through this competition. Your app, it could help other kids in similar situations. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. The familiar code I'd written filled the screen. But now it didn't feel like a secret shame. It felt like power. Later that day, Marcus's coach visited. Coach Thompson had always been different from Dad, strict but fair, focused on discipline rather than dominance. I had no idea, he said, his voice heavy with regret. I should have seen the signs when you stopped coming to the dojo. Dad said I had to practice at home instead, I explained. To give Marcus better training opportunities. Coach Thompson's face darkened. That's not martial arts. That's abuse. Real martial arts is about respect, control, and protecting those who are weaker, not terrorizing them. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. The scholarship committee made their decision. Marcus has been disqualified from the program. I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, guilt, and something else: validation. It's not your fault, Coach Thompson said, reading my expression. Marcus made his choices. Now he has to face the consequences. That evening, Mr. Torres brought news about my living arrangements. I would be staying with my mother's sister, Aunt Jenny, the same aunt hosting Marcus, but with strict supervision and separate schedules. Your aunt has a background in counseling, Mr. Torres explained. She'll help both you and Marcus through this, but separately. You'll each have your own space and boundaries. The next day, before my discharge, Marcus was allowed one supervised visit. He looked different, smaller somehow, without his usual aggressive confidence. I'm sorry, he said, standing awkwardly by the door. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I studied my brother, remembering the time before Dad's obsession with championships had twisted everything. Why did you do it? Marcus sat heavily in the visitor's chair. At first, it was just following Dad's orders. Then, I don't know. It felt good to have power over someone when I felt powerless myself. Dad's expectations, the pressure to win. But that's no excuse. No, it's not, I agreed. I'm starting therapy tomorrow, he continued. Real therapy, not just anger management. And I'm enrolling in a different school next semester. I nodded, turning back to my laptop where my app's code glowed on the screen. You're really smart, you know, Marcus said suddenly. All this coding stuff, I never understood it, but you're good at it. I should have seen that instead of trying to force you to be like me. As he left, I realized something had shifted. The brother who had terrorized me was being replaced by someone else. Someone broken, but possibly redeemable. Dr. Patel did one final check before my discharge. Your kidney will heal, she said, but the emotional healing takes longer. Promise me you'll keep speaking up? Looking at my laptop, thinking of the coding competition ahead, and the life I could now choose for myself, I made that promise. Sometimes the strongest move isn't a punch or a kick. Sometimes it's simply telling the truth. 6 months passed like a new season, bringing changes I never thought possible. Living with Aunt Jenny taught me what normal felt like. My kidney healed, and so did my spirit, though at different rates. The state coding competition became my turning point. Standing on stage, presenting my app, now called Safe Space, I felt strong in a way no martial arts trophy could have made me feel. This application helps identify patterns of sports-related injuries, I explained to the judges. It can alert medical professionals to potential abuse disguised as training accidents. I won first place. The irony wasn't lost on me. My brother's abuse had led to an innovation that could help others escape similar situations. 3 tech companies offered me internships for the summer, and a full scholarship was waiting for me after graduation. Marcus and I still lived under the same roof at Aunt Jenny's, but with strict schedules and boundaries. He attended therapy 3 times a week, and I saw him changing. The aggressive, entitled champion was being replaced by someone more thoughtful, more aware. One evening, after my coding club meeting, I found him waiting in the kitchen. "I saw your app demonstration online," he said, stirring his protein shake, a habit from his competition days he couldn't quite break. "It's going to help a lot of people." "That's the plan," I replied, keeping my distance out of habit. "Daniel," he hesitated. "Coach Thompson asked me to help teach a beginner's class. Kids under 10. I said no. I looked up, surprised. "I don't trust myself yet," he continued. "The therapist says I need to understand power dynamics better before I can teach others." It was the most self-aware thing I had ever heard him say. Dad wasn't handling things as well. He was required to attend parenting classes and anger management sessions, but his main concern remained his tarnished reputation in the martial arts community. Mom had finally found her voice in therapy, and their arguments echoed through their empty house, or so Aunt Jenny told us. The court-mandated family therapy sessions were the hardest. Sitting across from Dad, watching him struggle to understand how his training methods had enabled abuse was painful. "I just wanted you both to be strong," he said during one session. "I am strong," I replied, opening my laptop to show him my latest coding project. "Just not in the way you wanted me to be." The therapist, Dr. Wade, helped us navigate these conversations. Strength comes in many forms, she would remind us. Recognition of past mistakes is also a form of strength. Mom's transformation was the most surprising. She filed for separation from Dad, started taking classes at the community college, and never missed a therapy session. "I failed you," she said during one of our private sessions. "I was so afraid of your father's anger that I let him turn our home into a training camp instead of a safe place." "You did fail me," I agreed. "But you're trying now. That matters." My app gained attention from child protection services and sports organizations. I was invited to speak at a conference about identifying and preventing abuse in youth sports. Marcus asked to attend. Standing at the podium, I saw him in the audience, sitting between Mom and Aunt Jenny. He looked different, humbler, less imposing in regular clothes instead of his champion's uniform. "Abuse often hides behind excellence," I told the audience, "behind trophies and medals and scholarships, but no achievement is worth the cost of another person's safety." After the conference, a young boy approached me with his coach. "Your app helped me," he said quietly. "The pattern matching showed my parents I wasn't just being weak." Marcus, who overheard this, had to step outside. I found him later, sitting on a bench, crying. "I could have killed you," he said when he saw me. "That kick to your kidney. I was so angry about losing that match." "But you didn't," I replied. "And now we both have a chance to be different people." As summer approached, our paths diverged but in healthy ways. I accepted an internship with a tech company developing safety protocols for youth sports programs. Marcus enrolled in a counseling program at the community college, wanting to help other athletes deal with pressure and anger. Dad finally admitted he needed help, especially after his Dovo's board of directors suspended his teaching license pending completion of an ethics course. During my last required family therapy session, Dr. Wade asked us each to share one hope for the future. "I want to protect others," I said, "through technology and awareness." "I want to understand myself," Marcus added, "before I try to teach anyone else." Mom spoke about healing and learning to be stronger, while Dad, for the first time, talked about learning to listen instead of demand. Aunt Jenny hosted a small celebration after the session, not for any belt promotion or tournament victory, but for 6 months of real progress. As I watched my family interact without the shadow of violence, I realized that sometimes the greatest victories don't come with medals. They come with healing, with change, and with the courage to speak the truth.